Well, again, thanks for hopping on, everybody. And we're going to get started in just a minute. Okay.
All right. Bear with me one moment.
Sure. And Trey, do give me a thumbs up in the chat or just unmute and say you're good that you can hear now.
All right. Keep talking, Sam. I'm in the midst of doing something, so I'm not quite
Sure.
looking at it right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to fix Trey's situation. Let me put him in the waiting room and letting him in again. Maybe this should work. All right, Trey, can you hear us now? And just so you know, guys, this Wednesday or next week will be, we're gonna hold one training, obviously, for this Wednesday, and we're gonna, Suhail is gonna do the training for this Wednesday, and if nothing before next year, it might be our last meeting for the year. So then we're gonna have get back at it after the Christmas and New Year's and everything. So I did want to throw it out there as well. And you do let me know whenever you're ready, Carl. Okay.
Okay, I'm just getting the illustration straight. That's what I'm in the midst of
For
doing.
sure. And while he's doing that, everybody got the bucket list from that platform, the Go Collab, correct? If you guys can, Carl posted it about an hour ago in the Go Collab. Download it. He's gonna go through some stuff because it is gonna be important for going through. It's a bucket list for what to ask, what to fill out when you're talking to these clients for the IOLs. It's gonna come in handy.
All right, let me pull up my bucket list. There we go.
Hello. Something me.
Okay, let's see here. I think I'm gonna use an old illustration. Trying to rush and get one through.
Sure.
All right, let me pull that up. How's everybody doing today?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Everybody else good?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
All right, all right. Bear with me one moment. Let me get into this.
And I understand it is the holiday season, so I promise we will give you about 10 days so you guys can go ahead and enjoy Christmas and New Year. So the 20th up until New Year's, it's all good. And Wednesday will be hosted by Suhail. So make sure we're gonna get on and have end the year with a blast. He's gonna go over some important stuff with all of us, and we're gonna wrap up the year with that. But
Okay.
second.
All right, let me just use this one here that I already got. All right. Sam, do you want to go ahead and put me on share so I could
Yeah,
share
please
my
do.
screen? All right.
All right, you should be the host now.
Okay. I'm just looking to expand my screen so I can see.
And Carl, if you can stop recording and click on record whenever you're ready to start.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, let's start off. This is just an illustration that I've done a little while ago. The main thing that I wanted to uh, basically let everybody know is that, especially if you go into the Go Getter, the Go Collab, I put a little paragraph in there to kind of explain basically an IUL. I hear a lot of people ask, what carrier should I use when it comes to an IUL? And I want you guys to understand that the carrier, for the most part, don't make a difference. And what I mean by that is the only real purpose for the carrier is just knowing their individual underwriting guidelines, when it comes to an index universal life policy. So what we did here is this particular gentleman here had $20,000 in cash that he was able to put into the account all at one time. He's a 66-year-old man, some health concerns, but high blood pressure, things like that. Plus, he's doing $1,500 a month for 5 years. Okay, so do you guys see how it's initially structured? 20,000 plus 18,000, and he's paying it monthly, but it's 18,000 annual premium. After 5 years, he's not paying any more premiums. So by the time this guy turns 71, by the time he turns 72, he's not paying any more premiums. Now, with this particular client, his main interest was not the cash value buildup. So we did a little bit more higher death benefit of $325. This particular guy has $120,000 mortgage that's still left on his home. So besides making sure that the mortgage is taken care of for his, he has 3 children. 2 of his children are under the age of 18. So he want to make sure that the house is paid off. Then he's wanting to leave as much of a benefit that he could. Looking at this guy, what he would have been paying for like a whole life, he would have had to been paying for the rest of his life. He may have gotten like 4% cash buildup, but keep in mind his main purpose was not for this particular client. His main purpose, and keeping in mind his health, his age, a whole life policy for him at his age. I ran not the illustration, but I ran it. It would have been like $800 a month. And although he's making $80,000 a year now, he makes $80,000 a year. He has $120,000 mortgage. He gets $2,400 a month from his wife that passed away. So he get her Social Security of $2,400 a month. Well, when he gets ready to retire himself, that $2,400 a month that he's getting from his deceased wife will cut in half to $1,200. So the reason why I'm telling you guys this is that you should never go to your client speaking about an IUL and just thinking that you're trying to sell it as a just an insurance policy. Because the main focus of it, because I'm gonna show another illustration. The main one that I wanted to show was like the one that I showed Sam, where the person puts a $500,000 rollover. Now, and the reason why I want to bring up the $300,000, the $400,000, the $500,000 rollover, I want you to think in your mind who you probably know a lot more people than you think that has $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. They may not have it liquid in their bank, but if they've been on their job for 20, 25 years, chances are they got $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in their 401k or their 403b. The only way you're going to know that is by doing a bucket list. But the main purpose with this one was, again, mainly this particular client, after 5 years, he never wanted to pay another mortgage payment. So he got an illustration. He got life, $325,000 for his beneficiaries. He did his initial premium. And you guys, when you're looking at this, especially when I show you the next illustration, they're going to go from A to Z. You're going to have somebody that has 15,000, maybe they're 30 years old and they're looking at, starting their life. Well, you as the expert and you as the bucket builder, and when we go over that here in a few moments, I want you to make sure that if someone is talking to you about an IUL, or if they come to you and say, hey, Kathleen, what do you know about these IULs I've been hearing so much about? Well, as a professional and an expert, you're going to say, I'll be more than happy to help you with this, Kathleen. Let me get my bucket list. So that way, when you start asking them, Kathleen, so how much money do you make annually? How much money do you have in the bank? How much money do you have saved up in the bank? How much do you have in your 401k or 403b? Now, if you're asking someone this question for final expense insurance, they're going to be like, it's none of your business. But when you're talking to people in regards to an index universal life, it's compared to an investment. The only difference is we focus on the cash value and not the investment. So this one here, I wanted to show you because this one is a breakdown of one that I did for someone who had a smaller amount. But his main interest at being 66 years old, getting ready to retire, and knowing, how much money he got in the bank, how many stocks he has, all of this and that. He told me, look, Carl, I am not worried about having any additional money as far as cash value goes. But what I am worried about is making sure that my young kids and my family is protected. So we were able to get him a bigger death benefit. Because it's not about the product, it's about the strategy. It's not about the commodity you use. It's not about whichever index. Well, the index makes a difference because index have their own, guidelines for us specifically. But it's not about the commodity you use. It's not about the product you use. It's not about any of that. What it's about is you and the strategy that you use for your client based off the bucket list information that they provided for you. And what you want to recommend to your clients are 40 to 60% of their retirement should be in the index universal life, mainly because of the tax-free strategy. And on the next illustration, I'll be able to show you the tax-free strategy, how that works. But just off this initial part, do you guys have any questions, good, bad, or ugly, that you want to ask?
I do.
Please.
Just as far as like the extent of time it goes, does that, because you got it to age 86.
Right. What
Is
it does? Go ahead.
No. So is that the age that you just did it specifically with this policy, or is that what you do with all the policies?
It changes with the policy because it goes further. It changes with the policy, but what it is based off the client needs and wants. This particular client, again, he lost a wife a few years ago. He knows that he's not in the best health. He's healthy enough to where, he should be able to get approved. Again, knowing the carriers, knowing their underwriting guidelines will help you in making the decision as to which carrier you may want to use. But it's all about knowing your client's needs. This particular client, the need was not the cash value. The need was to make every little cent that he has left outside of paying for his bills. Outside of when he retires, he's looking at about $40,000 annually in Social Security. So he's not too worried about, his house, he said, you know, he only owes 120,000 left on his mortgage. You know, so what he's looking at doing is just making sure that his kids, you know, over the next 25 years, because he figure what he tells me is that at 66, with his health, you know, his wife just passed away a couple of years ago. He doesn't anticipate himself living to, you know, past 85. And this is what he's telling me. And after you go over a couple of different strategies and talk to your client, and your client tells you they want something a certain way, you just make sure that when you submit this to be for an application, you make sure that you have the illustration in there. You make sure that you have the bucket builder, you know, that he told you that he makes 80,000 a year. He told you that he has $120,000 on his mortgage. This is to protect you from being sued, because when you're dealing with someone's final expense. So I'm sorry, with their retirement. So that's basically, with this particular client, this is what he wants. This was the third illustration that I sent to him. And he came back and said, okay, Carl, this is the one that I want. Did you want to follow up, or was that okay for you, Hill?
No, you pretty much answered the question. And then as far as like the allocation for like the percentage, you base that based on your bucket list, right? Like how you allocated it,
Right. So
right.
I'm gonna explain that part so everybody could see it when I pull it up on the screen. Let me get to a different illustration real quick. Sam,
Okay.
if you don't mind, can you just go ahead? I'm gonna go work on a different illustration. Take me about a few minutes to get it done. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment so I can do the illustration. That's what I wanted to let you know.
Okay. All right, man.
All right. Okay.
And one thing that I do suggest
It
for,
does not matter.
go ahead, Carl.
No, I was just letting people know that again, it doesn't matter what carrier you use. You know, it's all about the strategy.
100%. And you know, early on, I was like, what are they talking about? The first time I started you know, the insurance industry, but they told me, hey, don't worry about the, like, oh, I need to basically ride with this specific carrier or that specific carrier. They said, don't worry about it. Go with the one that's best for the client, and they're gonna get approved. Once you leave the house after 3 months, or maybe even after a week, they won't even remember what policy they had. They remember, oh, somebody came to my door. For some rare cases, they will remember, hey, Sam helped me with a insurance policy. They're not going to remember what carrier it was. So they're not going to buy the carrier. They're going to buy you. So 100%, Carl, I understand where you're coming from. So when they say they're going to buy you, so it doesn't matter what product, as long as you're not screwing the client over, do what's best for them. And, you know, think about getting them approved instead of who's going to pay you more in commissions, if that makes sense. So definitely, you know, do that. And also, one thing that I suggest when it comes to Index Universal Life Express or overall Index Universal Lives, you gotta be very intentional about it, because it's very easy to mess up an IUL and screw the client over. So you gotta be a pro at it in a sense. If you're not there yet, make sure you ask for help until you become a pro at it, because the last thing we want to do is screw the clients over and mess their policy up. It is not a regular final expense or whole life policy. You know, for everybody to, hey, it's a whole life, you're going to be covered for the rest of your life, the death benefit doesn't drop, the price doesn't go up. No, none of that. There's more into it. It's a retirement type of thing for them. It depends on what they're looking for, but it is for future, you know? So you got to be very intentional about it.
Exactly. It is. It's a retirement strategy, and it's the only product of its kind. You know, I've had deep conversations with you know, agents who are expert at annuities, IRAs and things like that. And don't get me wrong, a Roth, an IRA, a 401k, or 403b, whatever they're called, they're good. Like I tell Sam, a 401k and a 403b, they're good. Versus keeping your money in the bank. And if you're looking at retirement, yeah, you use a 401k or 403b. An IRA annuity or a Roth IRA, they are better, meaning they're better than a 401k, or 403b. But an IUL is best. So if someone says they're using an annuity, you don't tell them, hey, you got a terrible product, or you do this or you do that. No, you just explain to them that, listen, when you're putting your money into a 401k or into a 403b or into an annuity or into a Roth IRA, who is your silent partner? Anyone, put it in the notes, put it in the chat. Anyone tell me, seriously, someone tell me, who is your secret partner when you have a 401k, a 403b, an annuity, or even an IRA? It's your Uncle Sam. It's the
IRS.
IRS. And keep this in mind. Any one of you who have had a job where you had money into your 401k or your 403b, and you had an emergency for whatever reason, you had to pull money out to fix your car, to fix your house, do whatever. Who else took money out of your account? Uncle Sam, the IRS. And keep in mind, what a lot of financial advisors or insurance agents who do things, who follow the flow. They do the things 90 to 95% of people do, of agents do, is they'll say, listen, take this pre-tax money, transfer it over into an annuity because you don't have to pay taxes, or transfer it into an IRA or a Roth where you don't have to pay taxes, or you just start an IRA with your own. The difference, what it's called, is you have qualified and non-qualified. Qualified is when you roll it over from a 401k or 403b. Non-qualified is your money that you put in yourself. So it's after-tax money. But guess what? Once you've made the index, the variable, or the capital gains by having your money into a mutual fund or whatever, you still have to pay taxes on the gains, the capital gains. So let's say, Hill, that you've done everything right. You got you an annuity or a Roth IRA. You transferred it over without paying the taxes. Let's say that you're married. You pass away. You leave it to your husband, or both of you guys pass away at the same time, and it goes to your children. Well, if it goes to your husband, there's still no taxes. Your husband won't have to pay taxes. But what if you and your husband die together, and it goes to your kids? And let's say you had, let's say you had 100,000 for your kids. Well, your kids are not going to get 100,000. Your kids are going to get whatever's left after Uncle Sam come in and take their part out of it. You don't have to worry about that with an index universal life. So they can tell you all the beautiful things about an annuity or Roth IRA, but what they can't tell you, and I'm talking mainly for financial advisors who do it the traditional way. What they can't tell you is that, somebody's not going to have to pay taxes. What you want to tell your client is, listen, you got such and such amount in your 401k. Let's say you got $500,000 in your 401k or your 403b. Do you want to pay the taxes on your seed, or do you want to pay taxes on the harvest? Can anybody, let me ask you this, Hill, since I've been speaking with you. What do you think I mean when I say do you want to pay taxes on your seed or do you want to pay taxes on your harvest?
Do you want to pay taxes on what you're putting in initially, or do you want to pay taxes on what you've accrued? No?
Exactly. You're on the right track. Let's say this. Let's say, let's say you're 55 years old and you're looking forward to retiring in 10 years, right? Um, do you want to transfer the money over into an IUL and pay the taxes now while you still got 5, 6, or however more years left that you're going to be working? Or do you want to pay it when you turn 70 years old, 5 years after you retire, you're in Florida and we have a hurricane and now you got to fix your roof. So you go to get that money out of that annuity. So if you need $20,000 to fix your roof, that means you're gonna have to pull 28,000 out. So that's $8,000 out of your retirement to fix your roof. You get what I'm saying? That's paying at the harvest. If you pay at the seed, you pay it right at the beginning. Let me go ahead, transfer the money over to an IUL. And now let me get to this IUL so I can show you what I mean by that. Bear with me here. Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna try to hurry up and get through this. Okay. Let me just get through the illustration. Now keep in mind, when you look at this, this is what a guaranteed illustration is. So this is basically, before I would do a guaranteed illustration, I would sell them a whole life. Not an IUL, because you see there's no benefit in it. Okay. Now, with this particular one here, wow. With this particular carrier, what I would normally do, and I should have done it before I set it up with you guys, is that if you look over here at the age, he's 55. He had, in this particular illustration, he had 500,000 out of his 401k, 6,000 a month. He's paying monthly. I'm sorry, 500 a month, 6,000 annually. And I put it in for 7 years. So after 7 years, he would have no more illustration. The only problem with this one is that this one is at 5 million. And I apologize to everybody. Next time I'll make sure I have the illustration already up to show you guys. But normally what I would do is if he got at 55 years old, and this is because I know the numbers already, at 55 years old, if he has $500,000 that he's able to roll over, I'm going to do a death to benefit at 55. His death to benefit is going to be about I would say about 1.7 million, 1.6, 1.7 million. And you see the cash value that he has right here, right? Is $450,000. But the cash surrender value is $275,000. And the death benefit is 5.9 million. Do you guys know why his surrender value and is at 278,000 versus it should be about 410, 415. The reason being is the death benefit is 5.9 million. That's a max death benefit. What do we want to do? We want to do a minimum death benefit, maximum funded. So we max funded the property. I'm sorry, we max funded the index universal with the 500,000 initial. And if you see up here, he's 55, non-tobacco, out of the state of Florida. His face amount is 5.9 million. What it should be, again, it should be about 1.6, 1.7. And that's because I already know the math in my head. And this is what you guys want to do. You guys want to start getting the math in your head because at every age, for example, I ran an illustration for somebody and they were 25 years old. At 25 years old, the minimum insurance that they could get was the same amount, 500,000, but it was 11 million for them. But that actually was the 11 million that was done correctly to show. And the reason being is that they have 278,000 cash value. If it would have been about 1.7, they would probably have about 415 surrender value. And guess what? Is any cash value taxable? Somebody let me know. Is cash value in an insurance policy taxable? The answer is no. Okay. And the reason why I'm asking you guys this is because I want you to think about it and know about it. Cash value in an insurance policy is not taxable. Now, let's talk about the strategy. And I'm still going to use the same strategy with this, even though it's not quite where I want it to be. Let's say the guy that I was speaking about, Ken, the first illustration that I showed you, he has $120,000 left on his mortgage. Guess what? If this was his policy, he could borrow up to 90% of his cash surrender value, and there's no taxes. What he can do is he can borrow 120,000, pay off his mortgage, and guess what? If he paid off his mortgage, he just cut off about $75,000 in I'm sorry, not in taxes, but in fees that he would have, in interest payments that he would have to pay on his mortgage. You guys understand that? Anybody? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. So now instead of paying an amortized mortgage payment, and guess what? He can pay it back as he chooses to the insurance company, because the money doesn't come out of his cash surrender value. The insurance company will loan him the money at a 5% interest. They leave the money in the cash value so it still builds up. Keep in mind, this illustration is at 6.44%. Does anyone know what the S&P 500 was up as of today? I do. It was up
Not me.
12%. And
Wow.
it's not that I need to know it because I'm a stockbroker, because I'm not. I need to know it because I'm a professional. And when I'm talking to these people, when I'm talking to someone, especially someone who makes $60, $70, $80,000 a year, but they've been at their job for 25 years and they've been putting into their 403b or 401k for 25 years for their retirement. Do you think when you start talking to them about the index, that they're not going to want to know and hear about, your expertise? Well, how does that work, Sam? Trust me, they're going to ask you these things, and it's okay. It's okay. You got your bucket list, and once you do the bucket list, which we're going to do right now, once you get the bucket list, you can come from a position of strength when you're talking to your client. Because if you're talking to your client says, "Oh, I want an IUL. I can afford to do $200 a month," and you get an IUL for $200 a month, but then you go write them up an insurance policy for $400,000. Well, guess what? They're going to call you a year later when they get their statement, and they're going to be like, Kathleen, why I'm not making any money off of my, index universal life? Why? Because you sold it as an insurance policy instead of as an investment property, as an index universal life, bragging on the cash value. All right, let me get to the real quick because I'm ready.
Yeah, before you get into that, I want to rephrase a couple of things. One thing you mentioned last week, and you kind of hit on it again, but just so I understand it from my part. And before he moves forward, you guys can unmute and ask your questions as well. Please do so. So it's he put $500,000 into the policy, and right off the bat, day one, they got almost, let's say, 6 million in death benefit. So God forbid, after a month of him getting that policy passed away, the family gets 6 million, correct?
Yes.
And also, let's say you mentioned taking a loan out of the policy. So he takes a loan out, let's say with a 5% or 3% interest, right?
Mhm. Depends on the
He,
carrier.
yes, you recommended the person, the client paying back the loan. They don't have to, they will deduct it from the death benefit if they were to pass away. But if they were to pay it back, they would still make money in a sense of, let's say, the S&P 500 or the overall, let's say it's 7% interest that they're gaining. So they pay 5% of the total loan amount, and they still pretty much make 2%.
Yes, it's called an arbitrage loan. And what that is, Sam, is let's say with the illustration that I showed where they had like 280,000 in cash value, surrender value. They had 450 in cash. Keep in mind, this is still a long term. So with this particular carry, it's a 10-year. So even though they may have cash value immediately, you always want to let them know that it's a long term, 10 years. After 10 years, there's no surrender value. But let's say, yes, they took that 120,000 out, they paid off their mortgage, and they borrowed that 120,000 at a 5% rate. I just know the particular carrier that I'm looking at. I know they're at a 5% rate for their loans. So now the S&P 500 was up 12%, as of today of the week. So it's up 12%. So the S&P 500 over its 73-year history has never collapsed, had bad years, of course, but never collapsed, and they average 9.8%. Some years are much higher. A couple of years when they fell, was lower, but it never crashed. And so what that means is if you take a loan at 5%, and then that point to point, year to year, the money you made 9.8%. Well, not only did you pay your loan back, but you made 4.8% off of your loan. Does that sound good to anybody besides me?
Sounds good to me.
And I don't expect you guys to know this now. It's a lot of information that you're going to have to learn and to get this and everything. And I'll be the first to admit it. But let me go ahead and share this because I got some I want to let everybody know. Did everybody get the bucket builder?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, you always, if you're looking at doing it for cash value, you want to do it at level benefit. Can anyone tell me why increasing death benefit should be the very last option that you suggest to a client? Well, first, does anybody know what the increase in death benefit is? What the increase in death benefit is let's say you get an insurance policy for $200,000. What that means is with the index, as the index grow and build, what's that saying is that the death benefit increases. So just like you make money off of the index that you could, go towards your cash value, your death benefit increases. Does anybody know how the insurance carriers price insurance or charge a client for insurance?
No.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is that everybody know that there's a cost to insurance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the cost of insurance is per $1,000 of the face amount.
Correct.
So two things I want to say. Let's say this person put $500,000 roll into his account and they get a 1.5 I'm sorry, $1.5 million policy. Guess what? They're only paying for $1 million of insurance. If they got $500,000 cash value, that means that they're funding the $500,000 because that's their money that they put into it. And they're only paying, even though their policy is 1.5 million, they're only paying for an extra million. They're only paying for $1 million because they got 500,000. You understand that? Does everybody understand that, or has a question about it? Okay. So again, what that means is if you're doing it increasing, that means that your client is going to always be paying for insurance. They just paid $500,000, and because it's increasing, because their death benefit went from $200,000 to $225,000, then to $250,000, that means that every time it goes up, that's money that's coming out of their pocket that they're having to pay for insurance. Now, when we sell a final expense policy, the cost of insurance may not be a big deal. Because what we sell $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 policies. But when you're selling someone a face value of $2 million, you see how the money can add up because of the face value per 1,000. They're paying for the cost of insurance, and it constantly increases if you do it by increasing. So, and what that also does is it takes away from the cash value because the cash value is constantly paying for the increase. So if we stick to level is not the devil. Level is actually your best friend when it comes to it because it's going to build them up the cash value. Now, what we're going to be looking at, you see here where it says liquid assets, reposition up to 40%.
Yeah.
Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yes.
This is why you want to ask them, okay, Sam, how much cash or savings do you have? Okay, great. Sam, do you have a 401k or a 403b? And how much money do you have in that 403b? Okay. Sam, do you have any IRAs, Roths? Oh, okay, great. What about stocks and bonds? Okay. Now, is there anything else, Sam? Do you have any life insurance policies or anything like that? Oh, okay, you do? Because what, Kathleen, with a life insurance policy that someone has, so let's say you got $100,000 life insurance policy you bought 20 years ago because, if you pass away, your family's going to be taken care of, right? So let's say you got $100,000 cash value in that insurance policy. What can you do with that insurance policy? Or let me rephrase it. Can you take that $100,000 insurance policy that you have on yourself and roll it into an index universal life?
Yes.
Yes. The answer to that question is yes, you're right. You can. So this is the reason why you want to ask all the questions. And you see where it says reposition up to 40%. Now, what you do is when you have all these numbers, you are going to have to use your expertise to say, okay, why don't you go ahead and keep that 15,000 that you have in the bank? We're going to let that be liquid. You got $400,000 in your 401k. Let's take all of that out of there. Why? Because we want them to pay at the seed and not pay at the harvest. And if you're going to sell IULs, you got to have that mindset. You got to let them know that you got to pay at the seed and not at the harvest, because someone with an annuity rep is going to come and say, no, you don't want to pay those taxes. You don't want to pay those taxes. Roll the money over. And I don't know how many people I've spoken with that have told me, people that are that are not even my clients, have come and talked to me and said, I wish I would have did it this time or that time. Why? Because I live in Florida, and these past 10 years, heck, these past 20 years, we've been getting the crap beat up out of us with hurricanes. You know, just had to fix, my house. So I'm here to let you know that every region has their own, but you got to be the expert to let them know. Look, do you want to pay? Do you want to pay your taxes at the seed or the harvest? And I guarantee you, 95% of the people that I've spoken with, they want to pay it at the seed. They'd rather roll that money out, pay it now, especially if they still got time to work. But even if they don't have time to work, if they put 500,000 in, and when we properly minimum death benefit max funded, the taxes that they paid when they rolled it out, they'll have that generally within 2 to 3 years paid back to them, not only with the tax-free strategy. And the tax-free strategy is, let's say someone is looking to use this as a fund and not a bank. Because what I showed you originally when they pulled 120, that's like you having your own bank. Because there's no late fees or anything like that. If you don't pay it, you don't lose the money, but you should be disciplined enough to pay it. If you pay your house note now and you actually got it paid off, you should be disciplined enough to pay yourself back. And that's what you want to let your clients know. You want to make sure you take care of yourself and pay it back. But once you get this bucket list done, can you guys see the advantage to you as the insurance agent to be able to go to this customer and say, hey, look, this is how you're going to be able to get the cash value that you're looking for. Not paying $200 a month when you're making $80,000 a year. And after you pay your mortgage and you do this and you do that, you literally, if you wanted to, after you pay all your bills, how much discretionary income you have? Oh, you have $500? That's what you should be paying. And now you're coming from a position of strength to let them know this is why you should pay this, Mr. Client. This is why you should do this, Mrs. Client. And now you done showed them the picture because you got the bucket list and you're able to show them everything. You guys got any questions on that? Okay. Mm-hmm. Now keep in mind, these are just the crumbs. There's still a lot of nuances and details that I will be going over. I just wanted to let you guys know that you really, if you're looking at doing Index Universal Life, you really should be using this bucket builder, or you can use the financial planner that they have with Experior, because Experior has one also. This is just for IUL, just so quick and easy, for me. So that's why I use it. What I want you guys to do is also, if you're going to want me to assist you with an illustration, which of course I don't mind, I'm here for the team. What I would recommend is come to me with a bucket builder. Come to me with a bucket builder so that way, when I look at it, I can go ahead and explain to you and show you based off what you got, what you're looking at, how this could work for you and how it can benefit your client. And if you do that, what I recommend is the carriers that I use specifically for IULs. Again, it doesn't matter the carrier because most IUL products are the same, but what does matter is the underwriting. Keep in mind, it's still insurance. They still have to get approved for insurance regardless. So you want to make sure you know some of the underwriting guidelines. And then I generally go towards the carriers that specialize in IULs, or they have more of a footprint with IULs. I do National Life Group. I do Mutual of Omaha. I recommend Transamerica. And I'm waiting for my, excuse me. I'm waiting
Nationwide.
for, Nationwide. I'm waiting on Nationwide now. Those are the 4 that I generally use. And if you come to me, those are the ones that I'm going to do the illustrations for. All the carrier of the illustration doesn't really make too big of a difference, as long as it benefits what your client is looking for. so many things still about the illustration. Keep in mind that illustration was at 6.44%. Keep in mind that when you're looking at a carrier, you always want to consider the underwriting guidelines, and you also want to start getting product knowledge with whichever carrier you choose, you plan on using. For example, National Life and Mutual of Omaha just at the top of my head. You need to make sure that you know the IUL products that these particular carriers offer. And there's generally only 2 or 3. But what you need to know is that if you're looking at doing this where you're doing the max funded, lowest death benefit for a cash value tax-free strategy, what you want to make sure that you do is you use an index product that focuses on cash value. Because you can get in there and say, "Ooh, I like the name of this index, so I'm going to use that one." And guess what? It's probably a guaranteed, or it's probably, a mid IUL, and it's not designed for cash value. It'll give you cash value, but it's not designed for the retirement aspect that we're talking about and suggesting that you use. Also, keep in mind, whether the person has $20,000, $2 million, once you know the strategy, it doesn't make a difference, because you can do a strategy for someone who only has 20,000 and can do, 200 a month, depending upon their age and where they're at, and again, depending upon their bucket list. That's how you're going to be able to make the recommendation to your client and back up the illustration that you're going to show.
For sure.
I'm gonna save the rest for another meeting should you guys want one. I'm gonna switch it over. Let me see how I can get it to you, Sam. How do I get it back to you?
I'll reclaim it myself. That's fine. So I do have a hard stop at 11:30 my time, so I will wrap up with this. Last week I did mention, Carl is there to help everybody on the team with IUL questions, illustrations, and explaining it to the clients and stuff, and getting his the 20% cut. And also, while he mentioned it, have that bucket list to save you, your client, and him some time, instead of you going with no information and then he's going to ask you. You will have to go back and ask the client regardless. And number 2, I suggest if you know what you're doing, do it. If you're not sure what you're going to do not have an illustration and show it to the client prior to talking to him. It wouldn't make sense for you to kind of have an illustration, show it to the client, and tell Carl, what do I do next? No. Have him help you with the illustration and what carrier he suggests you to go with, then go ahead and show it to the client. If you know what you're doing, go ahead and do it. But if you don't, please let's make sure we protect the clients the right way, So, but other than that, please, if any questions, ask. I literally gotta get on another meeting in a minute. So any questions, anybody? All right.
Let's go, team. Let's go.
I appreciate you, Carl. Appreciate you, team. And let's get it. Wednesday, we're going to have the meeting. If everybody says, let's keep it on, because everybody's texting me, hey, it's holiday season. I'm here and there. We can continue. It's not going to be a problem with me. But if you guys want, we're going to give it a 10-day kind of break for the trainings, for everybody to do what they're going to do. And we're going to wrap up the year with Wednesday training with Suhail. And let's go crush it. Obviously, we'll be available with the group and everything. So if you guys had any questions. All right. All right, you guys. Take care. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Peace out.